What's up? What's up? Thank you for clicking on, checking out Last Call. Definitely appreciate you being here, whether it's your first time, you are a subscriber, somebody just checking me out again. Definitely appreciate it. Um, Another topic that I want to go through today, and it being October and about a week away from Halloween. Usually in these occasions, we have things that pop up, certain artists, certain movies, things that pop up in our canon. Um, I want to make a couple things clear as I approach this. All right, this is about Tim Burton, but I want you to know I don't approach things, I try not to approach things too subjectively. I like to get the information. I like to get the correct information, different opinions, different vantage points, so I could have different perceptions as well, so I could form my own opinion with it. And by far, this is not an attack on this individual. It's just something that seems to come up every once in a while, and it came through in a couple conversations in my live and in my podcast that if you didn't check out, now I got a few of them. Let me quickly do my little PSA for myself. All right. Last Call's channel here. You obviously know that because you pressed on it, right? Got a few in the bag already. Seems to be going pretty good. I encourage you to check out my stuff, some of my lives, some of the little videos that I put out. Some content could be funny, some could be deep thought, and some good discussions with people who decide to step on here as well. I ask that if you are new, you kind of like what I'm doing, will encourage me and the flow and the momentum by liking, sharing, and subscribe. A lot of people say in order to get certain business or to get the like or subscribe or any memberships, all you got to do is ask. Say, did anybody ask you? What if I asked? Did somebody ask? So I'm asking. If you clicked on here, any of my stuff, you plan on returning, you want those notifications, please, please, please subscribe to Last Call. I would appreciate growing my little channel here. Although I think I'm doing pretty good so far, and I appreciate everybody who has subscribed, early ones, and even ones that subscribed not too long ago, meaning like a few days ago. Really cool to see that happen too, man. So I appreciate it. Let's keep going. So in a couple of lives, obviously, with it being October, you have what I consider one of the greats. I'm just going to put out some of my opinion here and going into this, because when people get triggered when they see the headings or the titles and they think you're going to go a certain way with this. So I want to do a few things. Like I told you, the way that I approach subjects like this is I wouldn't say I did a full deep dive research. I didn't go research mode on this, but like I said, some of these things, the topic comes to surface. I actually like this dude, Tim Burton. I think he's very talented. And in my childhood, whether it be Beetlejuice or especially Batman was a big one when I was growing up too. And some of the other things that he's done, I would definitely say give him the title more than creative. Like, I don't know about genius title or anything like this, but this is a man of his craft. He knows what he's doing and he does it very well. Couple of the things that have come to surface with him is, I guess what people would say is forced diversity or diversity hires, or trying to shoehorn in some diversity. Now, as far as I know, Tim Burton is a white dude. Definitely nothing wrong with that. And we know in terms of Hollywood or many establishments as well, let's face it, it's the majority white. Even the music business, where certain trends, you might have the Latin explosion or hip hop might be popular right now. But the bigger picture is that those so-called minority groups really don't own a huge percentage of what makes the wheels turn, or to, I should say, make the machine work. right? So I want to kind of get this information to you, not really in a back and forth, but in a way where it doesn't seem so argumentative or accusatory here. Because, I could pull sound bites out to try to demonize poor Tim Burton here, but that's not the objective. This is not what we're trying to do. This is just some stuff I hear around the way or heard around the way, and want to talk about it a little bit and provide a little bit of my opinion to the matter too. So, and this is actually new. This is something I would say I'm a fan of Tim Burton's work, but I certainly, for a lot of these people, I'm not really a social media guy, so I don't really know what the word on the streets is per se. So I didn't know that this was simmering around Tim Burton and his reputation for a long, long time. All I could tell you is creatively, I liked what he was doing. I like some of his works. Big fan, especially being a Batman guy, and some of his other things too. I would just watch because his name was attached to it. So let's go back a little bit. Here's I guess you call it online paper, registered forum is what it's called. Wow, talk much. And I just want to highlight a few things. And I didn't make a timeline on when some of these events. I think what's important is just putting some of the things and some of the claims that were made in some sort of order, rather than sound bites to make the guy sound evil or make people sound oversensitive, because certain concerns are easy to dismiss by people that, just don't want to hear it. And this isn't that sort of a slam piece. So Tim Burton, this guy, as you saw in the thumbnail, responsible for many, many things. The Nightmare Before Christmas, like we said, Batman, a lot of the ones, the dude that he works with, Johnny Depp, he's got a great body of work, no doubt. So somewhere along the line, people, I guess, began to notice that, he has a certain aesthetic to his work, meaning it's a bunch of white people. Now, right or wrong, I'm not so sure there. I think he does his art and he expresses things the way that he's accustomed to, and in his world, where we sort of meet a little bit of a crossroad is where, and God, I hate using this term, this awakening, this woke crowd or whatever, where people start asking questions and sort of want that representation as well, saying, my world doesn't look like this, why aren't more of my people represented? And I think those are all valid questions too, right? But a couple things with that. Like I said, I don't think you could shoehorn in diversity where it doesn't go. Now, where you have to decide where it goes or not, like if you're going to a university and they have historically not admitted any people of color or specifically Black people onto their campus or into their legacy, you might have to academically, forcefully, not just kicking doors and being violent, but you might have to have policies to shoehorn some sort of diversity in there, and in certain professions as well. So instead of letting things happen, or according to how some people say things, some people might need a little fire lit under their ass to make some of these things happen. Where I am concerned about this topic is when it's brought up, because they are valid topics. A lot of these things are microcosms of how society is. And when people do start asking questions, well, why aren't there more? Why isn't there more diversity in your works and whatnot? And you don't really seem to have a well thought out answer. In fact, your answer makes a little bit of a bigger fire to the situation that's already a tough and could be convoluted situation for somebody. And I think this is the case with Tim Burton. So Tim Burton, he has these wonderful works that we've been seeing for a few decades now. To my understanding, we just have to be careful, and I'm going to remove this as well, where we're using words like, racist, because when I was looking this up, a lot of the questions were like, is Tim Burton racist, and this, that, the other, where people have already formed their opinion, or the editorial is already forcing its audience to be in a certain mind frame rather than being inquisitive or just curious about what might be going on with this, right? So I kind of like the Register Forum, this paper, online paper, whatever it is here, just asking this title here, why Tim Burton is wrong about forced diversity. Now, a couple things with Tim Burton. And it's particular where people are just like, he won't hire this, that. There are very specific arguments. It's not just that he won't hire minorities. It's his use of minorities, particularly Black people, in his films. And it's also what his response to that criticism is, right? I just want to kind of jump something, if I can make a picture more clear. So apparently, this is the order of, or somewhat the order of things. Two things that sort of defined or made people a little more critical of Tim Burton and his work. So what are your thoughts about the Tim Burton controversy? Basically, Tim Burton doesn't have minority characters and doesn't feel that it fits. So he doesn't feel that it's necessary. And he doesn't want to necessarily shoehorn in diversity. I could understand that to a certain extent, but let's continue. Another issue is that a Black character in his show Wednesday was a bully. So even though he doesn't have that representation, they're saying, the representation he does have is still a negative construct, right? Now, there's another thing that he's done as well. And what is it? I have it in one of these. I had it all prepped up for you guys here, but maybe not that good at having things in order. So, I do think it was this one, but I didn't show this one yet. So Tim Burton has responded to claims of why his movies are full of white people, Beetlejuice. So here's one of the things that kind of made people look at him sideways. Let's see if it says so down here. So there was a character in A Nightmare Before Christmas, released in 1993. Screenwriter Carolyn Thompson claimed there'd be a clash over a villain called Oogie Boogie. This character was voiced by a Black star, Ken Page, and during the script apart podcast, Thompson said Oogie Boogie is a derogatory term for African Americans. So they went back and forth on this. He begged the powers that be to change something about the character because of that. So I believe they showed a little bit of protest because of the, let's say, racial insensitivity of using that name to no avail. They went on and used it anyway. You know that. You could go back and check it out. So he didn't see it as a concern there. You fast forward that to the Wednesday character, and then the depiction of the bully of, I say Jenna Ortega, or Wednesday. It's weird when you're reading one thing and you're kind of thinking another there. But in all honesty, when I'm reading through things as well, I do remember Harvey Dent in Batman. He made the decision to make him a Black man there as well. There were also claims of Samuel L. Jackson being a lead character, and that was one of the criticisms that, doesn't matter if Billy D was a actor then, but the main leading actors, he doesn't choose for anything either, right? Okay, so there's that. Where and while I do this is why I take breaks, sort of run into trouble here, um, thinking that there's no problem, is that his response is a pretty flighty response. It's not a considerate response. It doesn't seem like he's really taking any of the criticisms seriously. So let me go back to this paper here. All right. Opinion. I kind of like this guy's commentary because he says a few things and it's a little bit of a different perspective. So I don't want to bore you by reading the whole thing, but there are a few main points that I want to close in on. So as I do, I kind of skim. I think everything's on there so you can see the actual article um, that you could go back to and check out. As Halloween approaches, increasingly scary uncertain times, most of us had prepared for the tradition, trick-or-treating, blah, 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 blah. I've been able to watch a lot of movies, indulge in the cinematic addiction throughout the quarantine. That's not the part. One of the movies I rewatched recently was Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. Watched this movie many times before, appreciating it more and more each time. But after a little bit of research, he says, Tim Burton's life story, his other films he had in the works, and other Tim Burton themed tidbits, I stumbled upon a few past opinions that drastically tainted my perception of this renowned director. Now, I think this is the main part. And again, separating art from the artist. When you have somebody that you hold in high regard for their work, because again, I said I do appreciate the work of Tim Burton and his creativity as well. As a consumer, as an audience member, my whole thing is this. You could have somebody that you regard in such a great manner for their creativity, but it does this. It really does taint your perception of the renown of the person in question because of their past controversies as well, right? Especially he has neglected diverse casts across his career. Now, I think one of the things, just before I continue, that we could agree on, we are in different times, and the country and societies have been involved in turbulent times concerning race, background, all that sort of stuff before. And one of the solutions are to have a little diversity, that people, customers, or the people running the organizations have people, they represent people that support the business, right? That's what the whole thing is about. Now, when that falls on deaf ears, or somebody it seems insensitive to that situation, you sort of just have to question where their head is at and if they even see things as a problem. And just because it doesn't affect their life like that, and they're making their money and they're able to put out the products the way they want, is there no social concern or social responsibility as to what surrounds that? Is there no social responsibility for people who actually like your work but don't look like you and don't come from where you come from, that you just have no concern about any of their concerns? All right. This person goes on to say this. I remember back when I was a child watching let me back that up. The majority of these articles published in late 2016 centered around a comment Burton made regarding the lack of diversity in his career as a whole. And here he is, quote, I remember back when I was a child watching the Brady Bunch and they started to get all politically correct. Like, okay, let's have an Asian child and a black child. I used to get offended by that. Then I grew up watching blaxploitation movies, right? He said. And I said, that's great. I didn't go like, okay, there should be more white people in these movies. So that's a tough, ignorant statement to put out there for a couple of reasons. The way that people try to push diversity may simply rub people the wrong way. There are people that are going to reject it, no matter how genius or how softly you try to finesse diversity into anything, any organization, any profession, anything you do. Obviously, people are just going to have a problem with it. But if you just show an unwillingness to have that diversity or to see it as an issue, That should concern some people, and it definitely would concern people that are interested in supporting your work because you make them feel like they don't matter, right? I don't, the part that really gets me amongst all this, and this is the crux, is that you have the opportunity to respond in a more productive way, that even if you don't make your films more diverse, it shows that you're not stuck in yesteryear. When you make a false equivalency, like saying, I grew up watching blaxploitation movies, and that you are putting that forward as your representation only of Black cinema, that is the problem. It's dismissive. It's dismissive and it's uninformed. Because even if you want to call that Black cinema, it's such a small, and as it says in the name, it's exploitative, right? It's not meant to represent Black cinema as a whole. So if you're using that and saying, we're all the white people in that, well, you're completely missing the point. And on top of missing the point, you're misguiding and misleading, saying that we're the white people in these movies. Well, they shouldn't be there anyway, because that's what blaxploitation is. If we look at other directors, we look at the John Singletons. I saw one person even point out, what the hell is it called? The Wakanda movie, the Black Panther, is saying there are white characters in there. There are good and bad as well. So this is a problem that he didn't have the decency to kind of look into it and say, and not make this equivalency and separate his ideas as well. Just to move on, it says, this comment sparked outrage in me as well. And this is where I'll just continue reading. As well as many of his fans on social media, calling attention to his absurd defense for the lack of diversity in his films. I am biracial, and it frustrates me because had he really paid attention, I would have realized his films did not feature many characters of color. So they're saying he's making the situation a little worse, that people would be willing to go with him if he actually did put some thought and was a little more sensitive with his surroundings as well. It also saddens me, back to the article, it also saddens me because Burton is my Hispanic mother's favorite director. This was someone she adored for the majority of her teenage years. Grandmother. Did I read that right? Or Hispanic mother. Okay, that makes a little more sense. I don't know why I said grandmother. Her teenage years, and wouldn't even acknowledge that her race existed. Oh. Since I've discovered this information, I truly believe Tim Burton's comment is racist. Now, this is if you want to make the distinction that his comment is racist, but maybe Tim Burton is not racist. This is where we have to be careful with the sound bites and the slinging of information back and forth as well, because people are putting this at the top of their articles. Tim Burton's racist because he doesn't cast people. Well, we have to break down the nuances of the argument. People are saying there's a problem with diversity, which could be reflected or displayed as maybe being a little racist by Tim Burton's as well. Can you tell I'm hungry and it's close to dinner time, for crying out loud? All right. So what do you think? There's a lot to digest in this, and it is tough to think of somebody's work that you liked growing up as this racist person or even insensitive individual as well. Here's what some people are saying. It's an overblown and big nothing burger. A white character wouldn't have fit the aesthetic of Wakanda. Oh, but they did. They were in there, right? And they're not saying, again, another false equivalency. So it's tough to hear other people's opinion when they don't even get the whole scope of the argument, right? I guess I'll go right into my personal opinion of this. And I don't think Tim Burton is necessarily racist. I don't think this is a boycott or anything situation, right? This is a person that could do a little bit better and probably be a little more sensitive to some of the issues that are out there. It's unfortunate that he made a knee-jerk response like that when people asked him about that. And as a minority myself, I don't want to be wedged or shoehorned in just for representation, because a lot of things go with that. The representation could be very poor representation. It could actually backfire on its intended effect. So, a little bit of a disappointment for his reaction to the questions that was posed to him as well. I don't think he has that problem. I'm not going to jump out and say, well, even Samuel L. Jackson, who stuck up for Quentin Tarantino and things like that too, says he's okay. I'm not going by that. I really don't think he has any hang-ups with color or background. It would be nice that if he were more sensitive towards some of the issues today. But again, you can't force that into people, and you can't force them to express that through their art. So maybe just a little bit of a wake up call for Mr. Burton, to at least entertain some of the ideas to maybe change the aesthetic a little bit. And it does, I just watched the first Beetlejuice not too long ago because it's October. And yeah, it did make me question a few things of that as well. Whereas some things could be a little bit more diverse. All right, but we don't have to wedge them in. I just wanted to bring that up. It's something that came up in a few of our discussions, in a few of my podcasts. Again, not demonizing this guy, and I hope that I put some of the comments that he made in context. This is kind of where we are today. So, no, this isn't choosing sides or anything. I'm not going to rush out to see Tim Burton stuff, but I don't think it necessarily taints what I think of him and his work too. But I mean, for anybody, these items are big deals. So I think you want to pay a little more close attention when you are being asked about this sort of stuff. All right. Again, I appreciate people stopping in. Do me a favor, there it goes right there. Hit me with that sub as I try to grow this little channel. I definitely appreciate you guys being here. Please check out my previous videos as well. And I'm going to keep doing this. Hope you got a little something out of today. Please come back, join me, be good to each other. Appreciate it.